I asked my best friend if he touched my sister, and 6 hours later he was in the ER. My sister called at 2 in the morning. Her voice was wrong, too quiet, too shaky. She said Trevor's name, and then stopped breathing into the phone like the words were choking her. I sat up fast. My girlfriend Simone woke beside me, sensing danger before I even spoke. What happened? My heart was already hammering. Nadia never called this late unless something was bad. Really bad. She tried to speak twice before words came out. The party, Trevor, hours missing from her memory, waking up in his bed wearing different clothes, her underwear inside out, text messages on her phone she didn't remember sending. I was standing before she finished the sentence, my hands already shaking. Trevor, my best friend since community college, the guy who had a key to our apartment, who'd been at our wedding, who called Nadia his little sister at every family gathering. The contradiction made my head spin. Impossible. Except Nadia was crying now, really crying, saying she didn't know what happened but her body knew something was wrong. Stay there. I'm coming. Simone was already grabbing clothes. No questions. Just moving. We drove to campus in complete silence, the kind of quiet that comes before explosions. I kept seeing Trevor at the party, laughing, handing Nadia shots, volunteering to make sure she got home safe. The memory felt poisoned now, recontextualized into something dark. Nadia sat on the dorm steps, wrapped in a hoodie despite the heat. October in California shouldn't be cold, but she was shivering. She climbed in back and made herself small. Simone took her hand immediately, asked about hospitals, about police. Nadia shook her head hard. No memory meant no proof, meant no point. That's what her silence said. Tell me everything you remember. My jaw was so tight my teeth hurt. She walked us through the night. Trevor greeting her with cinnamon shots, his hand on her knee, his breath on her neck, all friendly until it wasn't. Then nothing. A gap where hours should have been. Then waking up wrong. Shirt backward, jeans unzipped, mouth tasting like chemicals and copper. We drove back to my apartment. Simone kept suggesting her parents' house instead, but Nadia needed to see the place again. Needed something to trigger memory. The apartment was destroyed. Red cups everywhere. Trevor's bedroom door closed. My phone buzzed. Trevor texting about where I'd gone. Casual. Normal. Like nothing had happened. The disconnect made me nauseous. Do you want me to ask him? I was looking at Nadia, but seeing Trevor's face. 8 years of friendship. Every late-night study session. Every beer we'd shared. Every time I'd defended him to girlfriends who said he made them uncomfortable. All of it crashing together in my head. Nadia's eyes looked older than yesterday when she said she didn't know what she wanted. Didn't know if she was overreacting to a night she couldn't remember. Simone cut through the confusion like a knife. Waking up in someone's room with no memory isn't overreacting. It's what every woman is taught to fear. The clarity in her voice steadied something in me. I texted Trevor. We needed to talk. Important. He responded immediately. 20 minutes. Is everything okay? The normalcy of it made me doubt for 1 second. Then I remembered Nadia's underwear inside out, and doubt evaporated into something harder. Something cold. Trevor let himself in with his key 15 minutes later. Stopped when he saw the three of us arranged like a tribunal. Me blocking the door. Simone standing guard. Nadia on the couch where her memory ended. His expression shifted fast, confused to careful, calculating what we knew and what he could admit. That calculation told me everything before he even opened his mouth. What happened last night with Nadia? Direct. No preamble. His face arranged itself into concern. Practiced concern. He'd noticed she was drunk, he said. Helped her to his room so she could sleep safely, away from the noise. Said it like he deserved applause. Like putting my unconscious sister in his bedroom was heroic. Brotherhood, not opportunity. Why were her clothes different? I stepped closer. Why was her underwear inside out? Closer still. Why are there texts on her phone she doesn't remember sending? His expression shifted again. Defensive now. He didn't know about the clothes. She must have changed herself. He'd slept on the couch, like a gentleman. The word gentleman made my vision narrow to a single point. Simone asked about his hand on Nadia's knee, about sitting too close, about his breath on her neck. Trevor flushed red and started talking faster. Nadia was misremembering. Drunk people always confused friendly touches for something else. He'd been appropriate. Looked at me like we were still teammates. Like I was supposed to defend him against my own sister. The expectation in his eyes made my hands curl into fists. Nadia spoke for the first time since he'd arrived. Her voice small, but steady. Did you touch me while I was unconscious in your room? The question hung like smoke. Trevor's mouth opened twice before words came. He would never. She was like a sister. He couldn't believe she'd accuse him. The outrage sounded rehearsed, prepared, ready. I stepped into his space. Did you touch my sister? Slower this time, each word sharp. Trevor's eyes darted to the door, weighing options. He chose offense. How could I believe her over him? 8 years of friendship. Every time he'd had my back. Nadia was confused, mixing dreams with reality. Drunk girls always blamed guys when they regretted their own choices the next morning. Drunk girls. The phrase hit me like a fist. What choices did she make when she was unconscious? Trevor caught himself. Backtracked. That's not what he meant. Just in general. Nadia specifically hadn't made choices because nothing happened. but the slip hung between us, revealing everything he thought about women who trusted him enough to pass out near him. Simone pulled out her phone, started recording. Repeat everything you just said. Trevor went white, reached for her phone. She couldn't just record people. Simone stepped back. Single-party consent state. I absolutely can record you, and your attempt to stop me is noted. Trevor looked at me desperately, like I was supposed to make my wife stop protecting my sister. Tell me the truth. Last chance. Trevor said he already had. Nothing happened. Nadia was making things up because she was embarrassed about how drunk she got. I told him to leave. Give me his key. He stared like I'd slapped him. 8 years of friendship meant nothing? I said 8 years meant I knew when he was lying. Pure rage crossed his face before he controlled it. Trevor threw the key at my feet, said I'd regret this, that Nadia was obviously lying, that everyone at the party saw how she was acting with him. The implication that she wanted it made something snap in my chest. I shoved him toward the door, hard. He stumbled backward, caught himself, shoved back. Suddenly, we were chest to chest, breathing hard. 8 years dissolving into violence. Simone yelled us apart, phone still recording. Trevor looked at the camera. Something calculating entered his expression. He said loudly for the recording that I was assaulting him over false accusations, that he was leaving before this escalated. He walked to the door, turned back, said Nadia should be ashamed of lying, that I'd realize the truth eventually, then gone, door slamming. The apartment fell silent except for Nadia's quiet crying. Simone stopped recording, wrapped an arm around her. I stood there with adrenaline flooding my system, hands shaking, heart racing. I'd known Trevor 8 years, and in 1 hour he'd become a stranger who'd hurt my sister and lied about it. The cognitive dissonance made my head ache. My phone buzzed. Texts from mutual friends. Trevor was telling everyone Nadia accused him of assault, and I'd attacked him. The story spreading already, being shaped by whoever talked fastest. Simone told me not to respond yet. We needed to document everything, think strategically. But strategic thinking felt impossible when rage was burning holes in my chest. Nadia asked if we could go to the hospital now, if it was too late for evidence even after showering. Simone looked it up, said we should try anyway. Blood work for drugs, document injuries. The word drugs made Nadia's face crumble, the reality settling in that Trevor might have drugged her, might have planned this. I called the sexual assault hotline with shaking hands. They connected us with an advocate. Come to the hospital immediately. The drive felt endless. Nadia silent in back, staring out the window. Simone holding her hand, looking at me with an expression that said this was worse than we thought, that we were in territory neither of us knew how to navigate. I kept replaying Trevor's face, the calculation when he decided how to respond, the practiced outrage, the slip when he mentioned drunk girls making regretful choices. The ER was chaos. Saturday night casualties, drunk people, car accidents, domestic disputes. We checked in and explained why we were there. A nurse took us to a private room almost immediately. The advocate arrived 20 minutes later. A woman named Keisha who explained the exam, what evidence they could collect, what Nadia's options were. Gentle but direct, treating Nadia like an adult capable of decisions instead of a victim needing careful handling. The exam took 2 hours. I sat in the waiting room with Simone, not talking, both on our phones watching Trevor's story spread like poison through our social circle. He was claiming Nadia flirted with him all night, came on to him, made up assault allegations when he rejected her out of embarrassment. People from the party backing him up, saying they'd seen Nadia being handsy, saying she was drinking heavily, implying she was the aggressor. My hand shook with rage, reading comment after comment from people I'd considered friends. People choosing Trevor's version without even asking Nadia what happened. Simone took my phone away, told me to stop reading, stay focused on supporting Nadia instead of fighting social media battles. But the injustice burned in my chest. The way Trevor had instantly weaponized their friendship network against my sister. Nadia emerged looking exhausted, hollow. Keisha explained they'd done blood work for Rohypnol and other date rape drugs. Documented bruising on Nadia's thighs and arms consistent with being held down. Collected other evidence in case she decided to report, in case hung heavy. Keisha said reporting to police was Nadia's choice. The advocate program would support her either way. We drove home as sun came up, the city looking normal and peaceful like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. Nadia decided she wanted to report, wanted Trevor held accountable even if the case never went anywhere. We went to the police station, spent 4 more hours giving statements, explaining what happened, providing Simone's recording of Trevor's denials. The detective was a woman named Alvarez, who seemed genuinely invested but also realistic about how these cases usually went. Detective Alvarez explained that sexual assault cases without witnesses were difficult to prosecute. Often came down to he said she said, unless there was physical evidence or drugs in blood work. Trevor would likely claim any sexual contact was consensual. Nadia's lack of memory could be used against her to suggest she was too drunk to remember consenting. The way Alvarez explained it made clear she'd seen this scenario dozens of times, was preparing us for disappointment. But she also said the bruising was significant. The text messages sent from Nadia's phone could show consciousness of guilt if they could prove Trevor sent them. The blood work might show drugs in her system. They'd interview Trevor and see how his story held up under pressure. Sometimes men who thought they'd gotten away with it cracked when confronted by authorities. Her tone suggested she didn't expect Trevor to crack, but she'd try anyway. We left the station exhausted and raw. Simone drove to her parents' house because none of us could face the apartment where it happened. Her mother took one look at Nadia and started crying, pulled her into a hug that made Nadia finally break down completely. Her father asked if I wanted him to handle Trevor. The violence implicit in handle made me love him and fear for him simultaneously. I said police were involved. We needed to let them do their jobs, even though every part of me wanted to find Trevor and make him hurt. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Trevor's friends demanding I apologize for attacking him. Mutual acquaintances asking for my side. My boss asking if the police report he'd heard about was real. Simone finally took my phone and turned it off. Told me I needed to rest before making decisions about public responses. But sleep was impossible with images of Trevor and Nadia cycling through my mind. Rage and guilt taking turns crushing my chest. The guilt was overwhelming. I'd brought Trevor into our lives, vouched for him, told Nadia he was safe, left her at that party knowing he was there, trusted him to look out for her. Every time I'd defended him to past girlfriends who said he gave them weird vibes. Every time I'd explained away his boundary-pushing jokes as just his sense of humor. I'd been paving the road to this moment. The realization that I'd been complicit in my own ignorance made me physically sick. Detective Alvarez called Monday afternoon. They'd interviewed Trevor. He admitted Nadia was in his room but claimed she came willingly. They'd made out consensually. She'd been awake and participating. The texts from her phone were sent by her. He didn't understand why she was claiming assault now unless she regretted it after sobering up. His story exactly what Alvarez had predicted. Polished, consistent, designed to make Nadia look like a liar or a regretful hookup. The detective said they were waiting on blood work results. They'd subpoenaed Trevor's phone records to see if they could prove he sent the texts from Nadia's phone. The bruising was concerning but not definitive. Trevor's lawyer would claim rough consensual sex explained any injuries. The clinical way she described what happened to my sister made me want to scream. She said the case was open but advised us that prosecution was unlikely without more concrete evidence or witness testimony. Nadia took medical leave from school, unable to face classes while waiting for blood work results and police updates. She stayed at Simone's parents' house, too afraid to be alone, too traumatized to sleep without nightmares. I went back to work because we needed money but couldn't focus on anything. Kept checking my phone for updates. Kept seeing Trevor's face when I asked if he touched her. My coworkers had seen the social media posts, and most believed Trevor's version. Treated me with careful distance like I was the unstable one for attacking my friend over a misunderstanding. The blood work came back Thursday. GHB in Nadia's system. A date rape drug that explained her memory loss and physical symptoms. Detective Alvarez called with barely contained satisfaction in her voice. This changed everything. Trevor's consensual story fell apart when the victim was drugged. They were getting a warrant for his arrest. Sexual assault with the use of drugs. Possible additional charges for administering a controlled substance without consent. I called Nadia immediately, told her about the GHB, about the warrant. She started crying, but this time it sounded different, like relief mixed with vindication, like finally being believed after days of people calling her a liar. Simone got on the phone and asked what happened next. Alvarez said they'd execute the warrant Friday morning. Trevor would be arrested, arraigned, likely released on bail but at least formally charged. The criminal process would begin. Friday morning, I took off work. Couldn't sit at my desk knowing Trevor was being arrested. Simone and I drove to the police station and waited outside. Watched them bring him in around 10. He was in handcuffs, looking shocked, looking around like he couldn't believe this was happening. Our eyes met for a second through the glass doors. His expression shifted from shock to pure hatred. Blamed me. Even now, even caught, he blamed me for believing my sister. The arraignment was Monday. Trevor's parents hired an expensive lawyer, a man named Gelman who specialized in defending sex crimes. He argued for low bail. Claimed Trevor was a college graduate with no priors, not a flight risk, a model citizen being railroaded by a vindictive ex-friend. The prosecutor countered with the severity of the charges, the premeditation implied by drugging the victim. The text messages showing consciousness of guilt. The judge set bail at $50,000. Trevor's parents posted it within hours. Social media exploded. People who'd believed Trevor started questioning. The drug evidence was hard to explain away. Some apologized to me, to Nadia. Others doubled down, claimed the GHB could have come from anywhere, that Nadia might have taken it herself, that the charges didn't mean Trevor was guilty. The mental gymnastics people performed to avoid admitting they'd supported a rapist was stunning and nauseating in equal measure. Nadia decided to go public with her story, posted a detailed account on social media about what happened, about waking up in Trevor's room, about the GHB in her blood, about people who'd chosen to believe her attacker over her. The post went viral, thousands of shares, hundreds of comments from women sharing similar experiences, from people saying they'd always known Trevor was off, from mutual friends apologizing for not believing her immediately. Trevor's lawyer sent a cease and desist, claimed Nadia's post was defamatory, threatened to sue for damages to Trevor's reputation. Simone's father, who practiced civil law, laughed when he read it, said truth was an absolute defense to defamation, that Trevor suing would only give Nadia's lawyers the opportunity to prove everything she'd said in court. The letter was pure intimidation with no legal weight. We ignored it. The preliminary hearing was in December. Nadia had to testify, had to describe waking up in Trevor's room, the missing hours, the bruises, the text messages she didn't send. Trevor's lawyer was brutal, asked why she'd been drinking so heavily, why she'd been sitting so close to Trevor on the couch, why she'd gone to his room if she didn't want something to happen. The victim blaming was textbook and enraging, but Nadia held steady, answered every question calmly, didn't let Gelman rattle her. The judge ruled there was sufficient evidence to proceed to trial, set a date for March. 3 more months of waiting, of Trevor being free on bail, of seeing him around town, of mutual friends treating the situation like a disagreement rather than a crime. The pre-trial period felt endless, like being stuck in amber, unable to move forward, unable to go back. Trevor violated the no-contact order in January, sent Nadia a message through a fake Instagram account, said she was ruining his life over a misunderstanding, that if she'd just dropped the charges, everything could go back to normal, that he'd made a mistake but didn't deserve to have his whole future destroyed. The entitlement in the message was breathtaking. Even facing criminal charges, he couldn't comprehend that what he'd done was rape. Just a mistake, just a misunderstanding. We reported the contact violation to Alvarez. She had Trevor hauled back to court. The judge revoked his bail, sent him to county jail to await trial, said the message showed he posed a danger to the victim and couldn't be trusted to follow court orders. Watching Trevor being led away in handcuffs for the second time felt better than it should have. Felt like maybe justice was possible after all. The trial started in March on a Monday morning. Jury selection took 2 days. Trevor's lawyer systematically eliminated anyone who'd experienced sexual assault, anyone who had strong opinions about believing victims. The final jury was 8 men and 4 women, mostly older. Several who'd expressed skepticism during voir dire about whether drunk people could be reliable witnesses. We were going to trial with a jury predisposed to doubt Nadia. The prosecutor's opening statement was straightforward. Trevor had drugged and sexually assaulted Nadia while she was unconscious. The GHB in her system proved the drugging. The bruises proved force. The text messages sent from her phone while she was passed out showed Trevor had her phone and was trying to create a false narrative of consent. This wasn't a he said she said case. This was a predator who got caught. Gelman's opening painted Trevor as a good guy, caught in a nightmare. Nadia had been drinking heavily, flirting with Trevor. They'd made out consensually. She'd taken the GHB herself for recreational purposes. When she woke up regretting her choices, she'd cried rape to avoid taking responsibility. Trevor was the real victim here. A young man whose life was being destroyed by false accusations, and a justice system too eager to believe women. Nadia testified on day 3, walked through the entire night. Trevor handing her shots, his hand on her knee, the blank space where her memory should be, waking up wrong, the GHB in her blood. Under cross-examination, Gelman asked about every drink she'd had, every friendly interaction with Trevor over the years, tried to paint their relationship as flirtatious, tried to suggest she'd wanted this. Nadia never wavered, said clearly and firmly that she'd been unconscious, that unconscious people can't consent, that Trevor had raped her. Detective Alvarez testified about the investigation, the GHB in Nadia's system, the bruising consistent with being held down, the text messages sent from Nadia's phone while she was passed out, phone records showing Trevor's number accessing her accounts during the time she was unconscious. The evidence was damning. Gelman tried to poke holes, suggested the bruises could be from consensual rough sex, suggested Nadia could have taken the GHB herself and given Trevor her phone password, each suggestion more desperate than the last. The toxicologist testified about GHB, how it worked, how quickly it incapacitated people, how it caused anterograde amnesia, said that Nadia's blood levels indicated she'd been given a strong dose, enough to render her completely unconscious for hours. Gelman asked if people ever took GHB recreationally. The toxicologist said yes, but that recreational users took much smaller doses, that Nadia's levels suggested someone trying to incapacitate her, not someone trying to have a good time. Trevor testified in his own defense. A risky move. He claimed everything was consensual, that Nadia had come onto him, that they'd made out and she'd been awake and participating, that she'd taken GHB herself before they hooked up, that the texts from her phone were sent by her. Under the prosecutor's cross-examination, his story fell apart. He couldn't explain why Nadia would take enough GHB to knock herself unconscious. Couldn't explain how she sent texts while passed out. Couldn't explain the bruising. Kept contradicting himself. The jury watched him squirm. Gelman called character witnesses. Trevor's parents, his professors, people who said he was a good student, a good son, not the kind of person who would rape someone. The prosecutor dismantled each one, asked if they'd been in Trevor's room that night, if they'd seen what happened. if their opinions about Trevor's character changed the physical evidence. They admitted they didn't know what happened that night, that they only knew the Trevor they wanted to believe existed. Closing arguments happened on Friday. The prosecutor methodically walked through every piece of evidence: the GHB, the bruising, the phone records, the text messages, the inconsistencies in Trevor's story. Said this was a predator who'd planned to rape Nadia, who'd drugged her, who'd assaulted her while she was unconscious, who'd tried to cover it up by sending texts from her phone, who only got caught because Nadia was brave enough to report and because the evidence didn't lie even when Trevor did. Gelman's closing was desperate, claimed reasonable doubt, said the prosecution hadn't proven beyond certainty that sex happened, that even if it did, they hadn't proven it wasn't consensual, that Nadia might have taken the GHB herself, that her regret didn't equal rape, that convicting Trevor would ruin an innocent man's life. The jury's faces suggested they weren't buying it. Deliberation took 8 hours. We waited in the courthouse hallway, Nadia pacing, Simone holding my hand so tight my fingers went numb. My parents had flown in for the verdict. Simone's parents were there, all of us just waiting. The bailiff finally called us back in. The jury had reached a verdict. We filed into the courtroom. Trevor was led in wearing a suit, looking pale but defiant. The jury foreman stood, read the verdict. Guilty on all counts. Sexual assault with the use of drugs, administering a controlled substance without consent, witness tampering for the text messages sent from Nadia's phone. Trevor's face went white. His mother sobbed. His father stared straight ahead like he'd been turned to stone. Nadia grabbed my hand and squeezed so hard I thought bones would break. Simone was crying. I felt nothing but a cold satisfaction settling into my bones. Sentencing was 6 weeks later. Nadia gave a victim impact statement, described how Trevor had stolen her sense of safety, how she couldn't sleep, couldn't trust people, how the assault had derailed her entire life, how his attempts to deny and minimize what he'd done had compounded the trauma. She looked at him while she spoke. He wouldn't meet her eyes, just stared at the table in front of him like if he didn't acknowledge her, she'd disappear. The judge sentenced Trevor to 15 years in state prison with no possibility of parole before serving 85%. She delivered a statement about how he'd betrayed Nadia's trust, how he'd drugged and raped her while she was helpless, how he'd tried to cover it up, how he'd shown no remorse even when caught. She said men like Trevor were predators who deserved significant prison time to protect society from their violence. Trevor was led away in handcuffs, this time for real, this time for 15 years. We left the courthouse into bright May sunshine. Nadia looked lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted. She'd been believed. Trevor had been held accountable. It wasn't perfect justice. Nothing could undo what he'd done, but it was something. It was consequence. We went to dinner at Simone's parents' house, ate and laughed and cried, told stories about Nadia's strength, about how proud we were. It felt like the first normal evening in 6 months. 3 years later, Nadia graduated nursing school at the top of her class. She'd specialized in emergency medicine, wanted to work with assault victims, wanted to be the kind of nurse she'd had at the hospital that night. I stood in the crowd watching her walk across the stage and thought about Trevor in prison with 12 more years to serve, thought about how close we'd come to him getting away with it, how many times people had chosen to believe him over her before the evidence became undeniable. Justice had come, but it had required perfect circumstances. Blood work showing GHB, phone records proving the texts, bruises documenting force, Nadia's courage to report immediately, despite knowing how these cases usually went. Without all of that, Trevor would still be free, still be everyone's friend, still be dangerous. The system had worked this time, but barely, and only because Nadia had fought like hell to make it work. Appreciate you watching this far. If you enjoyed it, drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe so you won't miss the next story.